Hey everybody, this is Carl, and I am going live today to talk to you about an easy way for you to help your clients out and not just to survive during this financial upheaval, but actually to thrive. And I know that sounds melodramatic, but it's true. Some people actually, I was talking to somebody and they were saying, well, I think that this whole thing of rushing out to your clients at this time is profiteering. And I gotta say, that's the stupidest thing I've heard in a long time. If there's a tornado, somebody has to come and fix your roof. And guess what? They're not going to do it for free, right? Uh, if there's a big snowstorm and your furnace doesn't work, somebody's going to come and fix it, but they're not going to do it for free. So right now, your clients need you, and it's okay for you to be the one that's there when they need it. And it's okay for you to charge for that. Obviously, you don't want to charge them 4 times the price. You don't want to rip them off. You want to be the good person who helps them out in their time of need so that when it's all over and everything is said and done, they will remember that you were there for them. So I just want to talk about just a handful of things that you can do. So, quick note, just for those of you who are in the Small Biz Thoughts technology community, we're going to continue this conversation tomorrow in our monthly meeting. So, third Thursday of every month. Just go to the main dashboard and information is there, or you can contact Kara and she will help you out. So, when you're a consultant, what is your job? Fundamentally, as an IT consultant, your job is to help your clients make good decisions about their technology. So what does that mean? Well, for years, for the last 10 years, we've been telling people upgrade every 3 years. Upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. Don't be using a 10-year-old laptop. Don't be using a 7-year-old server. Move your stuff to the cloud. It's the right thing to do. Store your stuff in the cloud. Have a backup. Have a disaster recovery plan. Be prepared for ransomware. Those are all ways that you help your clients to make good decisions about technology. And so, that is your job, right? Well, at this time, your clients have very specific needs. And there's actually a lot of forums on Facebook and different places about how right now a lot of people are working remotely for the first time ever. And I know that seems absurd to some of you who have been working remotely for 20 years, but it's true and it's not their fault, right? If you were a teacher or an accountant, you may never have had a reason to work remotely, to go get a camera, to go get a microphone, to set yourself up and work that way. So people need to be smart about this. So what they can't do is run down to Staples and buy some $300 piece of junk laptop and then send their employees home and have a completely insecure environment, right? That would be silly. So, don't do that. Don't let people connect one person with Azure and another person with Dropbox and another person with ShareFile, and they've got 10 different services for moving data. They email themselves secure documents, right? Don't let them create a data sieve where all of the information in their company is just now spread all over the internet, right? In particular, there's a lot of people who have to stay compliant. It's also a great opportunity if people have not yet done this. I actually was talking to an IT guy yesterday, I think, might have been the day before. But we were talking about how even though they sell voice over IP phones, they've never taken the phones home and used their system remotely. And now they just can. All they have to do is literally unplug the phone, take it home, plug it in, ta-da, right? And their extension is their extension. So that's huge. Let me give you an example of a very, very real story. I was just literally this morning talking to my accountant, and he was talking about, we're going to send a note to our clients and tell them that we really should figure out how they could get us their tax stuff without having to come into the office. So we'll have a drop box, or we'll have a place to put it, a physical drop box like next to their office. And we'll have them sign forms so we can e-file on their behalf. But they want to have conversations with us, so we got to give them that option. And I said, well, why don't you use Zoom? Why don't you use video conferencing, right? You have the ability, the technology exists. And he said, the technology does not exist for these people, right? These are just average Americans. They don't have video cameras. They don't have webcams. They might have something on a laptop, but they don't have a stable internet connection. They would never be able to figure out how to do it. And I'm like, you send them a link and they click on it. He said, yeah, but people are afraid of that, and then they don't know if they have to create a username and password, and should they write it down, because if they ever have to use it again. And I'm like, okay, this is a solvable problem, right? And then he said, well, and then they want to send me information. They want to send it by email. And I said, oh, no. There's a lot of ways where you can securely request a link and, they can send you information. He said, yeah, but again, you've got all of those issues of they don't know how to use it and so forth. And he said, and then they want to send me pictures of their documents, but if it shows up in a PNG, it's teeny tiny and I can't see it. And I'm like, you're making this into a bigger problem than it is. All of these problems are solvable. And that's what he needed to hear. And I'm not his IT guy. So I said, why don't you go to your IT guy and tell him you need people to be able to get you this data. You need to be able to move documents back and forth. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have told him to fax stuff, and he owns a fax machine, but none of his clients do, right? So I said, where's your IT guy in all this? And he said, my IT guy does not give us ideas. He just fixes things. He makes sure that the cloud is up every day, that the email is flowing every day. He makes sure that we're in business. But solving actual problems, that's not what we rely on him for. And all I could think of is, you should. Like that should be his job. And for you, it should be your job. In these times, you really need to go to your clients and have business level discussions. And you may need to do it over Zoom, but you should absolutely do it. In the last recession, we had been doing our roadmap meetings with many, many clients, and they're huge. And, I highly encourage you to look at the roadmap process. It's very straightforward. Eventually, I would like to see you build it into your whole sales process, where you go through a technology roadmap questionnaire with them and find out the size of their business and are they growing or shrinking or whatever. But in times like this, where, stock market's down another, 1 or 2,000 points, depending on what time of day it is, we're going to have a recession, period. End of story. It might only last a few months. It might only last a few years, but we are going to have a recession. And we need to switch into a different mode. And so you need to go to your clients and help them make good decisions about their technology. So one of the things that we did, we had one client that they eventually got bought by their competition, but as the economy was getting worse and worse, two things came into play. First of all, they signed a managed service contract. So their technology spend was very flat, and our revenue was essentially guaranteed. And, they dropped a desktop here or there, but our revenue was very, very stable during the last recession. And we were able to go to them in a technology roadmap meeting and say, look, you've got computers that you just bought in the last year. If you're laying off somebody who's got a brand new computer, let us come in, we'll move the computers around, we'll make sure that the people who are here have the newest, latest, greatest technology. It only costs you the hourly for the add, move, change, You don't have to go buy another computer. And then we'll take those old computers and we will take them, we'll wrap them in plastic and stick them on a shelf. And they won't have updates and all of that kind of stuff. So they're insecure and you can't plug them back into the network. But that way, when the economy improves and you start hiring again, you can decide whether you want to take those old machines off the shelf or you want to buy a new one. But we'll make sure that your network is secure in the meantime and that your people are using the best equipment that you have available. That's a perfect example of really good business advice that helped our clients to get the most out of the technology that they'd already bought, right? A similar thing, and I give this example all the time in presentations and so forth, is when you look at a backup system. Let's say they've got a backup system. It's pretty old. It's probably going to fail, right, in the next year or two. With a technology roadmap meeting, you would make the decision years in advance. When that system dies, we're not going to replace it with another disk-to-disk backup. We're going to move you to a BDR, or we're going to move you to a cloud-based backup. And, give them some idea of what that costs, but they don't need a quote until the day that the system dies. And so the day the system dies, it's a very low stress event and there's no sales. You simply tell them, okay, remember we talked about this? This is the day that we move to cloud backup, right? Ta-da, it's literally that easy. And they'll say, okay, get us a price, right? But the goal is to have these conversations on an ongoing basis. And, I call it a quarterly roadmap meeting. Realistically, what we do is the office manager contacts each client, sets up a meeting. We hold the meeting. We give them a report on what the results are, what our ideas are. And then as soon as we're done with that, my office manager makes an appointment for them to have the next meeting. And they might say, oh, we just did it. We don't need to do it for 3 months, 6 months, whatever. Most clients, if you're lucky, you'll get 2 or 3 meetings a year. I don't charge for these meetings, but you'd be shocked at how many times we come out of this meeting where somebody's saying, all right, well, we should probably replace that firewall at some point this year. So get me a quote on that. And so, again, very super low salesy. We're having a true business discussion and we're helping them get the most out of the technology they have. So that's a huge piece of it. So when you give them that report, it's very important that you meet with the decision maker. You can't meet with their office manager. You can't meet with anybody who can't make a decision, because you really need it to be somebody who can make decisions with that company. And so they don't get the free report, right? The price of free is they have to actually meet with you and have that conversation. So, make sure that they understand that from the get-go, that you will cancel the meeting if they don't have the decision maker there. And I know that sounds harsh, but remember, one of the absolutely unbreakable rules of success is that you can't control people, but you can control your processes. So if you've got a process and it says, I meet with the decision maker, then that's what they have to do. Period. End of story. That's the way the world works. Now, if you go to my blog at blog.smallbusinesstalks.com and just put in the term client roadmap, and you might want to put it in quotes because every other roadmap will show up otherwise. I've written about this many, many, many times over the last 15 years. I've kind of put it all together inside the Small Biz Thoughts community. So if you're a community member, you have access to it. And I've actually asked Kara to put together a roadmap. So that's coming very soon. I have to get her some links. But basically, we have a 3-week class on how to hold the roadmap process, and it's got a white paper on how to use it, and it's got the recorded classes and all that. So but literally we just consolidated that in the community, and you can get all the juicy goodness on my blog. Just search for the term client roadmap. and follow the links. So there's a number of articles over the years, and I've done videos and so forth on it as well. So I encourage you to look into that. But I just highly encourage you to start today. Start with your biggest client or your client that you think is in the most danger, and set up an appointment and say, I just want to talk to you, whether it's in person or over Zoom, and let's talk about how your people can work remotely, because I know that is a problem you've got to solve. And if they say, well, there's no way that my business could be remote, just say, you may not have that option in another 2 weeks. So let's brainstorm. Let's think about other ways of looking at your business, because there's always more than one way to achieve your goals. You may not want to have everybody work remotely, but if it becomes a reality, let us help you do it. Don't bake your own stuff at home and turn into a very insecure system where you've got your data out there, and instead of being backed up every night, it's just everywhere. We can help you create those processes and procedures. No, it's not free. On the other hand, ransomware isn't free either, right? So, let us help you do it the right way instead of you just trying to figure it out for yourself. At the end of the day, you do what you do, and we do technology. Let us help you do that. If you meet with all of your clients one at a time, I think you'll be shocked at how much business you're going to be able to get. And it's all legit, right? None of this is just making shit up so you can make more money. These are legitimate things that you can do to help your clients make it through, not just the next 3 weeks, but the next 3 months, right? And potentially longer than that. We have no idea how deep the recession is going to be. We don't know how long it's going to last, but we are in a bear market now on Wall Street, and we're at the tip of the iceberg of the things that are going to have to happen, things that are going to have to change. So help your clients get through that, and they will love you and remember you forever. Let's see here.